Right, so we are streaming live. Grant, you're just getting the recording going as well. There we go. All right, we do have a 5386 phone on the line. Can we just identify who that person is, please? Is that possibly Kessel's number?
I'm pretty sure that's Kessel.
Oh yeah, it is. Okay. All right, so it is 7:01. We can call to order. Were there any changes to the agenda at all? Do not see any at this time. All right. Declarations of conflict of interest or pecuniary interest. Again, I'm seeing none. All right, I will welcome our delegations, presentations, or petitions tonight. We have both MP McLeod with us, and after MP McLeod, we will have representatives from the Rcmp speak to us about their report. So at this time, I will say welcome, MP McLeod. It's great to have you on our call. Inviting our MP to our meetings has been something on our priorities chart for quite a while, and so it's wonderful to have you here, and we hope that we'll continue to be able to do this through the rest of our term and certainly into the future. So I know that when I had given you the request to come, I kind of asked for a bit of an update, and then maybe we'd have some questions. So I'll hand it over to you if you'd like to give that update, and then we can move on from there.
All right, thank you, and thank you for the invitation, Mayor, and greetings to yourself and all the members of your council. I think everybody will agree that this year has been a year that has been different for sure. We've been facing a pandemic, and it's caused all kinds of issues, and it's been a fairly tough year for, I think, all of us. And everybody's been working hard to keep people safe, and we've certainly been working hard to try to keep the economy from crashing. But in the last little while, we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and vaccines are on the way. I think the first shipment landed yesterday, and hopefully by summer we're going to start seeing what is the new normal for us. And I'm hoping that the work that the government of Northwest Territories and the government of Canada and the municipal governments and Indigenous governments have done collectively will be described as a success, and will allow us to have more freedom. And it certainly has worked well, I think, for us in Northwest Territories. We've had probably more freedom because of the actions that were taken than our southern neighbors, for sure. But it doesn't mean we have to let our guard down. You know, we've been able to keep our schools open, allow most businesses to stay open, and we should pat ourselves on the back for that. It's been hard work. It's been different being an MP, and I'm sure you can attest to this as a politician during this time, because circumstances have changed. And our government was fortunate that we started dealing with the issues early. Right in April, the government of Canada started providing funding to different levels of government, and including the government of Northwest Territories, who got $23.4 million. And we also provided a little over $8 million to the air services. And more recently, in the fall economic statement of a couple of weeks ago, we added, the government of Canada added another $30.7 million to the government of Northwest Territories for the Safe Restart agreement. That that includes everything from testing capacity, municipal supports, support for mental health, and safe school starts. For your presentation tonight, I put some numbers together. Some of them very interesting. The Canada Emergency Business Account, as of December 1st, had 457 loans provided to businesses, which was worth a little over $18 million. The Canada Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance, as of December 1st, had 33 tenants representing 235 employees for a total funding of right around $600,000. The Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, as of October 25th, had 1,060 applications for a total of $33 million in subsidies paid out. The Canada Emergency Response Benefit, or most people refer to it as the CERB, as of October 4th, nearly 12,000 NBT residents were supported through this program, and in a population of 4,500, that's 1 out of every 4 people received some of the supports. The Canada Recovery Benefit, as of November 23rd, $4 million was provided to 1,850 NBT residents. The Canada Recovery Sickness Benefit, as of November 23rd, $500,000 was provided to 570 NBT residents. The Canada Recovery Caregiving Benefit, as of November 23rd, $3 million was provided to 1,490 residents. So quite a bit of money was provided. On top of these dollars, there is $685 million provided to the Indigenous Community Support Fund, which has provided to the Northwest Territories First Nations $6 million, $5.8 million to IRC, and an additional $1.8 million has gone through an application process to the NBT urban and Métis organizations. CanNor has provided over 230 NBT businesses with $12.3 million through the Northern Business Relief Fund. And they've also provided, the government has provided $17 million for NBT air carriers. And CanNor has also been delivering another $34 million in regional relief recovery fund. These are some of the highlights of what Canada's COVID relief supports were. And there's other investments being made. There's been an increase in the seniors funding, a one-time increases to student supports, local food banks, women's shelters, and there's been a real attempt to have an all-of-government team approach. Our Prime Minister has had discussions with Canada's premiers, and including our Premier from Northwest Territories, an unprecedented 21 times to discuss responses to the COVID-19 pandemic. And we were very lucky that we entered the pandemic in a position of strength. We had the lowest debt to GDP ratio amongst the G7 countries. And that is a position we still retain. Our border limits are low, and it means that the debt is continues to be affordable. And we retain our AAA rating. The next budget, through some of our discussions with our finance minister, it's something we're working towards right now. Minister Freeland has set out some of the plan for the upcoming budget in 2021, and it includes a commitment to deploy a large targeted stimulus plan to jumpstart our recovery. And some of the some of what's included in there is Canada-wide childcare system, bolstering training support for those that are hardest hit, putting climate action at the center of the plan, creating 1 million jobs, providing grants to homeowners to help them make energy efficient improvements to their homes. And I'm a member of the Finance Committee, so we are currently just wrapping up our pre-budget consultations. That will also feed into the process. And normally the Finance Committee has about 400 or so responses to the call for pre-budget consultation submissions. This year we've had 800, so the interest is really high. I've been talking to the government about including more northern housing. We were quite excited to see that the speech from the throne indicated that there's going to be a greater focus on infrastructure for northern and Indigenous communities over the next couple of years to address clean energy, broadband, and housing. And on the issue of homelessness, the government is intending to eliminate chronic homelessness in this country, and will invest in rapid housing in the short term. And we've had quite a bit of housing investment in the NBT since 2015. I think it tallies up to about $400 million over a 10-year period. But the fact is, the Northwest Territories needs more to address the chronic housing shortages we have in the north. On the Arctic and Northern Policy Framework, Budget 2019 had a number of measures that were included in the budget to strengthen Arctic and Northern communities, including $40 million over 5 years to support post-secondary education. And that included $1 million for a task force to study post-secondary education in Arctic and the North. It also included $13 million for Dichinta Center for Research and Learning. And I think we've had time for most levels of government to have an involvement in the process. We had anticipated we would have seen more investment in the 2020 budget, but the budget didn't happen. It was supposed to be announced in March, and it was 98% ready to go. And of course, the pandemic hit. So we've been operating without a budget. So I'm really looking forward to what the next budget brings and what investments are going to be made on Arctic and Northern Policy Framework. On some of the other notables, Minister Garneau issued a $400 million call for proposals on National Trade Corridors Fund. We've already seen a number of investments from this fund, and it's been very welcomed. Investments on the Mackenzie Valley Highway and Slave Geological Province, and that included sections of road that people are wanting to see built on the Wrigley to Norman Wells, the section for Prohibition Creek and Cadet Mountain, and that also included the Bear River Bridge that is still in the works. And on addressing our changing climate, in June, I announced a $15 million federal contribution for some of these projects. I also announced $8 million in funding towards clean energy projects in the NBT. I think you were there to join me, the Mayor. And these included the biomass boilers in Inuvik and also the ones in Toledo and a solar project in Delaney and other projects that support community energy plans. Going forward, we expect the UNDRIP legislation to move forward rapidly. We want to see that happen in short order. So that'll be a focus of the government as we come back together in the new year. And of course, the vaccine rollout is something that's quite exciting. We expect to be high on the priority list. We've had a number of discussions, and given our small population, we should be able to do the vaccine early in the new year and have everybody vaccinated that wants to be vaccinated. That's all I have. If anybody has questions, I'd be glad to respond to them.
Great, thank you, MP McLeod. So there was a couple questions that had been submitted. One of them was the impact of COVID-19 on federal spending over the next 2 to 5 years. Do you have any information there or an outlook on how that might, the current spending might affect the coming years here?
Yeah, they based on the fall economic statement, and this is all public information, the spending for 2021 is going to be $381 billion. Out of that, $275 billion is being spent on COVID. 8 out of every $10 that is spent is federal money, and we expect the spending to continue. Next year, 2021 will be $121 billion, and out of that, $50 billion will be towards COVID issues. And over the next 3 years, we expect that we will be investing around anywhere from 70 to 100 billion on stimulus funding, and that should be a way of getting the economy back on its feet. So the areas are not yet identified, so I couldn't tell you where they're going to be, but there is a lot of discussion that is happening.
Okay, great, thank you. Another one was that the federal funding for scientific research in the NWT, particularly here in the Beaufort Delta, given the impacts of climate change, in the past years, funding was available to researchers. Do we anticipate funding available in the next 2 to 5 years for that research to continue? I think you kind of touched on climate change, but I guess this is research specific.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you exactly. I can't predict what's in the budget, what's in the upcoming budget. I expect that the money for research will continue. We've seen quite a bit happen in the past while. We've seen the Northern Contaminants Program put money into projects. We announced money for Aurora College for research to help identify and restore key areas. There was money from for coastal restoration from the Coastal Restoration Fund, from the Ocean Protections Plan, and the new Indigenous research capacity and reconciliation. There was $300,000 from there. So there is quite a bit of money being announced, and I expect the next budget will continue to have those investments identified in the north.
Okay, thank you. The next question that was asked was, there have been some articles recently about increasing the presence of military in the north. What is the plan and how will Inuvik be impacted given the presence of our FOL and increased air activity by Russia in Arctic airspace?
I think the minister has been working hard on modernizing NORAD. This is, of course, in cooperation with the United States, and there's a team at D&D that is focused on this, and the minister has mentioned many times in his discussions that we have a new space to underwater capacity, or we will have that space to underwater capacity for defending Arctic sovereignty. There's many things that are happening. There's a military satellite projects that are in the works. There's patrol ships that are being built. There's frigates that are also being constructed. There's new, well, they're not new, they're used submarines that are being purchased. So there's lots of things that are going to be happening. Some things that is relatively different is underwater monitoring and drones, and we've been talking about search and rescue with Inuvik being one of the places that's going to have a new longer airport for bigger planes, larger capacity. we're also we're also having that discussion about whether or not it's possible to move search and rescue. So there is, I think, a lot of discussion. Some of it is focused around additional infrastructure projects that will come as a result of the NORAD modernization projects. I intend to stay totally involved with it. There is some very interesting developments, and just for the public's knowledge, D&D intercepts every Russian approach to Canada's airspace, either directly or indirectly. And we certainly welcome the money that is going to come forward for the Inuvik airport. I think it's going to bring a lot of opportunities as it moves forward. That project is still in design stages, and we're expecting that we will see the contribution agreement signed probably in early 2021. So I'm not sure if they'll be able to start construction that quick, but I would anticipate that we're going to see construction starting by 2022.
Thank you. The last pre-submitted question was about the gas tax, which is, of course, dollars that flow through from federal to the territorial government and then down to municipalities. It was our understanding perhaps that the gas tax is indexed every 2 years, and so we're curious if 2021 is an index year.
Well, we've seen an increase to gas tax almost every year. In 2019, 2020, we've seen a bump, but that was a one-time top-up. And there's been a lot of push for additional funding. The Association Communities was just on the Finance Committee presenting their wish list for for the NBT, and they indicated that the gas tax is a good program. I certainly support that. The mayor of Yellowknife also attended Finance Committee and made her presentation and talked about the gas tax. And the government of Canada certainly recognizes how well received it is and how far it can go when money is spent in a municipality. So it's popular. I expect that it would continue. We've seen an increase every year so far, so I don't see why it wouldn't continue.
Great, thank you. With that, we can move to the floor if there are any questions. I think Councillor Wood, did you have yourself unmuted there before?
Yes, I did. First off, I wanted to thank you, Michael, for the work you've done on the Arctic and Northern Policy Framework. I think it's an important paper, and I actually had a hand in that when I was president of NWTAC, so I realized its value. It's good to see. I remember begging at your desk one year, if you want to call it that. So anyway, thank you for that. The second thing is something that strikes close to home, I'm sure, for yourself as much as me. Addictions treatment in the North. We don't have a treatment facility in the NWT. We used to have one here in Inuvik, which was very successful until the territorial government in particular pulled the financing. There was one on the Hay River Reserve that was underutilized. I understand there were staffing issues and funding issues for that one. But I'd just like a commitment that you'll work to get the North the addictions treatment they need. Personally, I'm getting tired of burying friends, family, and neighbors because of addictions. And I'm sure you feel the same way. So anyway, any work you could do in that area, I'd certainly appreciate. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Clarence. What you were talking about years ago is certainly going to be an important vehicle for us. The Arctic and Northern Strategy, I envision, is going to be a mechanism for the government of Canada to flow funding to the Northwest Territories in a fashion that they haven't been able to do it before. I'm not sure if everybody knows, but there is a real challenge when it comes to providing money to some Indigenous communities because the Northwest Territories doesn't have reserves. They have public communities, and sometimes it just doesn't seem fair that we see money flowing to other jurisdictions and it doesn't come here. I mean, that's just one of the challenges, but the Arctic and Northern policy could be a really good tool to have, a really good opportunity for the government of Canada to make significant investments in the North. I think it's not hard to look around and see the deficits that we have, especially in infrastructure. But we have the same kind of challenges when it comes to some of the social issues that we are facing. And the COVID has made it more blatantly obvious that we have challenges. There has been an increasing louder voice that are recommending that a treatment center be set up in the North. I don't know if the government of the Northwest Territories is quite at that point yet, but we certainly need to have partners to make that happen. The request is coming in from Indigenous communities, is coming from municipalities saying that there needs to be some facilities in the North that help us with not only addictions, but with mental health. And we've been really trying to help with on the land programs. Significant money has been invested and measures have been brought forward, but there needs to be more. We recognize that. And I think as time goes on and we move forward, we will start to see a more serious discussion that happens. But at this point, the government of Northwest Territories is still looking at providing services for addictions in the South. And the formal request hasn't really been discussed about an addiction center in Northwest Territories.
Great, thank you.
But I support the concept. I think I totally agree that we need to do more than we're doing.
Great, thank you, MP McLeod. Were there any other questions from the floor? Do not see anyone unmuting. All right, with that, I will say thank you for your time this evening. Also, I want to thank you for the work that we're able to do together as recently as the last couple of weeks working on the NAVCAN file, but also through my membership in the NWT Association communities on their board, and then any work that we end up doing together and announcements that we get to make. It is great to work with you, and I do hope that we'll see you in a few months again on one of these calls with some fresh updates, and hopefully we'll all be moving into the next steps of our lives post-COVID.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and I look forward to having discussions with you and your council and people from Inuvik, and I look forward to starting to travel again at some point. It's been a little difficult staying in touch with everybody. The Zoom conferencing helped, but it doesn't replace being able to rub elbows with people and talk face to face. So thank you.
So I will say it's your option whether you want to stay on the meeting or you can go. We'll leave it to you, but we'll just say thank you and have a great evening. All right.
Right.
So then we can move on to item 4.2, which is our RCMP report. We do have Constable Steph Leduc and Acting Detachment Commander Mark Bishop on the line. So at this time, I'll hand it over to them to present the report, and then we'll take questions from council. Take it away.
Thank you for having us. This is my first time on Zoom here, so Stephanie's just educating me on that one. I'm going to go through the report, but I just wanted to add this is going to be Constable Leduc's last council meeting. Unfortunately, she's riding up in the sunset down to Fort Smith. So I'll just go through the report quickly, and then I'll turn it over to her there at the end. So I'm new to the position here. I came up from Fort McPherson. So I'm going to be here until the detachment commander role is filled. That's going through the staffing process now, but I anticipate there's going to be probably 4 to 6 months from now before we see somebody in the chair. So I'll be here permanently. I'll be living here starting in January, and until then I'm just driving back and forth. So I noticed on the monthly report, the biggest thing to me that jumps out, which I'm sure you've probably seen as well, the call volume increase. So I can tell you the first one that increased I noticed was the assaults, the number of assaults for the month. That's a huge difference compared to last year. We're talking 25 more, actually a little more than that. And of those 72 assaults, 25 were in relation to family violence. So to me, that's significant. Of those 25 of family violence, 12 resulted in charges being laid. So I just wanted to bring your attention to that. And also, overall for November, we had a 200 call increase. I don't know what that is. I see it's under other complaints. So I'm going to have to dig in the next couple of weeks just because I just got here and see exactly what those other complaints are. But a 200 call increase in 1 month is significant. I'll take a look at the year and come the end of December. It looks like we're in line for a 25% increase, which is about 1,000 calls a year, which is a significant increase for a detachment the size of Inuvik. I mean, we got a 25% increase in calls. Ultimately, there's no increase in staffing for us, so we need to look at if there's anything we can target, anything we can do better, and I'll have more of an update for you for the next council meeting on what exactly is increasing. I wanted to mention as well, there's a new district advisory NCO, a new staff sergeant, that's Bruce McGregor. He's filling in for Staff Sergeant Louis Jambin, who has retired. I'm not sure if he made any council meetings around.
He did.
Yeah, so Louis is retiring. Bruce is filling in for him until likely March to April, until they decide on that staffing action. And Staff Sergeant Bruce McGregor came from Yellowknife, but he was up here quite a few years ago, Politaka, Klavik, and a few other detachments. And other than that, I'll turn it over to Constable Leduc just to give you an update on the community policing part. It's going to be a huge loss when she goes, because she's done quite a bit on her own time, organizing the events. We have new members come in. It's been quite a turnover. They're eager to get going, but the amount that she's put in on her own time is just amazing. It's the best that I've seen. So I know it's our loss, Fort Smith's gain, but we're hoping to continue that with some of the new members coming in, they can reach out to her. So I'll turn it over to her for the events that they did in November, and also I'm sure she can touch on a couple of the ones coming up in December.
Yep, so a few points from the community. Myself and Constable Richie met with the warming shelter, and we're working with them to kind of give them some advice on how we can work together better, because we both deal with the same clients, and we just needed a better understanding of what role the police have and what role the shelter has to assist the clients the best we can. So that was a great meeting. It was very productive, and we're currently working with them to better our partnership with them. Constable Richie also helped me do a mini crime scene workshop with the Girl Guides. That went over really well. And we also had a member, Constable Hagerson, went to the Remembrance Day ceremony. A few upcoming events before I leave. I thought I should do 1 or 2 last big things before I leave, and it turned into a big thing. So on Thursday, the Candy Cane Check Stop with ambulance, fire, and municipal enforcement is happening. That's always a big event. We are taking precautions. We're going to be wearing masks. We've pre-bagged all the candy canes and the postcards this year. So hopefully everything goes well with that. I know lots of people are looking forward to going through and getting a postcard that the elementary school kids have decorated. Another big event that is a first for this year, it's called Cookies with Santa. I've got tons of donations from a lot of businesses. I've posted the poster online at Inuvik events. Kids can come in. There's 130 bags available of cookie mix. I've partnered with Jordan's Principal. Kids can pick up a cookie mix, make some cookies, post a picture on Jordan's Principal website. They'll get entered into a draw, and I have over 50 prizes as well as 4 grand prizes that I'll be giving out in the new year, 2 days before I leave for Fort Smith. So I'm looking forward to see all the kids come to the detachment. It's a big thing. I want the kids to come meet the new members. A lot of kids know who I am, but I want them to come say hi to some of the new members. So if they come to the office, they get entered into the draw. So we're really looking forward to that. And it was great to be in Inuvik. We're really going to miss it here. I'm going to miss all of you. I've met most of you. I started my family here, so we're really going to miss it, and I hope to be back one day. So thanks, everybody.
And I think I can speak wholeheartedly on behalf of everyone at this table to say thank you, Steph, for all of the work that you've done, whether it's through your role as an RCMP officer or on your own time. It's definitely been an addition to our community, and your focus on youth especially has made a difference. So thank you very much. Right.
Thanks.
With that, are there any questions on the report?
Hi, it's Alana here.
Go ahead, Alana. Yep.
Hi. I just want to say thanks to Constable Leduc. In all my years working with the Rcmp, I have never seen anybody who is so skilled at doing not only community policing, but truly understands restorative justice. And I know you're not only going to do well in Fort Smith, you're going to do well wherever you go. And just thank you so much for truly understanding how to police at a community level. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Miro. Are there any other questions from council? I'm not seeing any. All right, thank you so much, both of you, for the presentation. And again, staff, thank you for everything you've done for Inuvik.
Thanks.
All right, we have not had any submissions for public question period this evening. So we can move on to adoption of the minutes. Item 6.1, the minutes of the November 23rd and 25th 2020 council meetings. Any questions or comments on these minutes? I'm seeing none. All right. 6.2, the minutes of the September 29th, 2020 Economic Development Committee meeting. Any questions or comments here? And I'm seeing none. All right, thank you. 6.3, the minutes of the November 3rd, 2020 Recreation Parks Library Advisory Committee. Any questions or comments? I'm seeing none. All right, on to the action items list. Are there any questions or comments on the list today? Seeing none, on to new business. 8.1, the 2021 interim operating and capital budget. SAO Hood, I think we need to put this on the floor and then just, oh no, that's Wednesday. All right, I'll hand it over to SAO Hood. He does have a small presentation and there was some updated numbers that went out about 10 after 6. If you haven't seen them yet, they should be in your inbox. SAO Hood, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Kulikowski. I think I've said most of my the information at the budget information session that we had with council. As you can see, and taking the input from council and suggestions and looking at it, as you can see, we have now looked at reducing the deficit down to approximately $143,000, which is half of what we originally estimated. And thank you for councils for providing some suggestions in that. It wasn't the easiest exercise, and I think I want to thank the directors for their help in taking a look at it today and areas where we could look at. We found a few things there, but other than that, it's basically as was presented on Monday or on Saturday. And if there's some other questions, I can certainly answer them.
Are there any questions from council at this time?
Not a question. I just want to thank Grant and his staff for all the work they did in preparing this budget. And for the cuts that were made, I want to thank Jackie for her department. I know there were a few things shaved off there. I appreciate the work everybody has done, and I think it's workable now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. Is there any questions or other comments from council?
Oh, I also just wanted to echo some of the things.
Steve.
Just want to echo some of the things Councillor Wood said. I think we as a council did a great job. I want to thank my fellow councillors. I want to thank the department directors and the SAO and the finance director for all their hard work. I think we're in a lot better position fiscally going forward. So when we get to the point where we're finalizing the budget in the spring, I think we're in a pretty good position right now that I'm optimistic that things will look pretty good by the end of the year. So thanks again, everyone, for all the hard work.
May I come in with something here?
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Selecki.
I'd like to actually address the paperwork that was sent out today. I had a couple of questions I'd like to, in the email you mentioned that the wages for, the casual wages for the Midnight Sun were looked at for the first 3 months for positions that were no longer needed, but the actual budget went up by $12,000.
So what has happened there is when we went back and as the document that we looked at the personnel requirements for the department. We were actually short in some areas, and as it turns out, just there was a bit of a spreadsheet glitch there. So we've rearranged everything as to where the manpower is required, based on the numbers, and the numbers are what they are. I can't say why the reason they went up is because we went and re-looked at the requirements for staffing at the different levels. The difficult thing we have is that whether we have 3 people in the building or 50 people or 60 people in the building, we still need the same number of staff. Sometimes there's the appearance that, well, why do we need people in there if there's hardly any people in the building? But we still have to keep those minimums, and what I believe is a better reality based on the assumptions that were on the sheets that I provided for the staffing levels.
That makes sense. Thank you for clarifying that. And also I see you did make some substantial cuts in some of the departments, and now it is much clearer to see where they're going. So thank you for doing that. And since we had this discussion on Saturday, it's really appreciated that this came back so quickly. So well done.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Slotky. Anything further? Not seeing any hands. All right, so we will come back to vote on this on Wednesday night. If you have any questions in the meantime, please feel free to send them to me so that Grant and I can find answers for you. With that, we can move on to bylaws. We do not have any tonight, so department head reports. 10.1 is the Public Works report. Are there any questions or comments on the report? I'm seeing none. All right, on to 10.2, the Planning and Development report. Any questions or comments on this report? Again, none. On to 10.3, the SAO's report. Councillor Wood.
You know, just a question on item number 3. How did the conference call go with NAV Canada? Did we get any commitments from them or what?
So no, there's no commitment. So the letter that we sent out, we sent on a Friday and was responded to, I believe, on Tuesday, which is a 3-day turnaround out of Ottawa with a weekend in between, which is almost unheard of. So we did stir the waters that we needed to. I did have a second teleconference, or Grant and I both did, with NavCan that included one of our Indigenous government partners here in town, and they have reached out to both governments now. While we don't have any promises from them, we have gotten more of our information to them and from groups that were left out of the initial consultation. Also, I've spoken with the Premier and with MP MacLeod, who was here earlier. All levels of government are aware of the situation and we have support. So moving forward, what it looks like is they will complete their review. They'll come back with a report, I believe in late January, early February, that goes to the Minister of Transportation. The expectation is that we will also get that report. And then we still have opportunity to appeal to the Minister, and so does Premier Cochrane. And so it is ongoing, but sending our letter and moving forward in the way we did, I think, was a positive way to go. And we did garner some of the attention that we wanted to with the letter.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Anything further on the SAO's report? All right. On to 10.4, the Economic Development and Tourism report. Questions or comments here? None. On to 10.5, the Community Services report. Questions or comments?
Well, I just had my little hand up here, so not a question, just in 10.5 I wanted to say from a big thank you to Colin Murray at the library, who's going to be leaving us. Thank you very much for all of his contributions to the town through his work with the town, as well as through the Firefighting Association and Volunteer Firefighter Service. So he and his wife, Veronica, will be missed. Just want to say thank you to them.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Barlock, and I'll reiterate those same words. Colin was a great team player and a great member of Team Inuvik, so we were sad to see him go, excited for them in Whitehorse. And I have reminded them that we will still be here if they ever want to come back. So, with that, we can move on to 10.6, the Protective Services Report. Were there any questions or comments there? Councillor Wood.
Not so much a question on the report. I just need a clarification on what the insurance requirements are for cab drivers. Do they have to have full coverage, or can they only have PL and PD?
All right, I will have to ask.
At
Director.
this point, at this point, I would have to look that up. I don't have the bylaw in front of me, but I can provide it for you by Wednesday.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other questions?
Not a question. Just again, thank you to all the directors for their very well done and thorough reports. They're very good. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So with that, we can move on to information items. 11.1 is our strategic priorities chart. It has been updated since our session last week. It was updated only to move up the items that were on the previous chart. I will get those notes out to you, and in the new year, we'll have to decide if there's any items that we'd like to add to the chart. If there are any questions on the strategic priorities, happy to entertain them now. See none. And our second information item is from Aurora Research Institute. So we'll move on to number 12, council concerns. Were there any concerns this evening? Councillor Wayman.
I was asked by someone in the community, is the northern stores, the sidewalks in front of, are they the towns or the northern stores? Because he's partially blind and trips a lot on there. He's wondering if they were repaired by the town, or are they the responsibility of the northern stores? And one other one, I might have missed out here. My computer's crashed, my phone crashed. Everything's been a Monday. The Rcmp report there, I was trying to get in, but my phone kept kicking out, my computer kicked out. But there's been several complaints to me, because we work on the highways a lot, by people driving, that there's a lot of drinking and driving on both highways, the ITH and the Dempster. And I meant to ask the officers if there's any plans of stepping up and doing some Christmas stop checks. There's some very concerned people, not only just regular people, but government workers, people that travel the highway every day, and they're concerned about as many beer cans out there and how much is going on.
Okay. I can send an email tomorrow to Stephanie and Mark, who were just on the call, and to ask the question, and hopefully have an answer back for you for Wednesday.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry that I missed all that. I meant to ask them that question. So.
No problem. For the sidewalks, is it in regards to the snow clearance, or is it like the curbs and stuff?
He's partially blind, and he's going very blind, and he's tripping on everything. But he's saying that's the sidewalk he notices the most in front of northern stores. It's very uneven and broken up, he says. And I haven't looked at it personally, but I said I'd bring it forward to council. So
I'd have to ask Rick or Grant to answer that one. So
I can answer that. The sidewalk in front of the northern, most of it belongs to the town, part of it belongs to the northern store. And it is one of the ones that we are going to get replaced, but not in this next batch, because the downtown ones are all wider. So it's going to take a lot more money to replace them.
thanks, Rick. At least I can relay that message to him.
all right, thank you. Is there anything else under council concerns this evening? Councillor Salatki?
Yes, actually, to piggyback what Councillor Wayman said, if you're going to send an email to the RCMP, and I probably should have spoken up, but there's been a number of people complaining about some of the speeding going on in town right now. I know it's obviously something we have to deal with all the time, and with no or limited municipal enforcement, there's been a lot of people concerned about the speed, particularly of taxi drivers, but of everybody through town along the side roads. King Mingya and Bonnet Plume are particularly bad. And if there could be some potential extra checks throughout this season, especially as the roads are getting icier.
Okay, thank you. I'll add it to the note. Anything further?
Sorry, Mayor Kulikowski, I would just say that, and I'm sure Director Hammond would say something as well, possibly, along the same lines, but I will have a chat with Director Hammond. We may be able to, even though we do have some limited with the traffic enforcement, with just the number of people we have at the moment, we might be able to prioritize a few things given the season as well.
Okay, thank you, SO Hood. So if there's nothing further under concerns, we do not have in camera tonight, so we can adjourn. We can come back together on Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Thank you everyone for your time. As always, if there's anything that you're looking for information on before Wednesday, please